Have you ever been overwhelmed by life? Anybody? Have you ever got that feeling that life is just too much to do, right? Too many lists. You know, some of you may have a list of things to do. We get a list together every summer of things to do that we want to do around the house, you know, because we're not in school. And maybe you just have a honey-do list. I don't know, that you keep as a year round. And as soon as you do something, your wife adds something to it, adds something to the bottom list. So it never seems to get done, but it just seems to be overwhelming, right? It's just overwhelming. Or maybe you're just, you know, when I get overwhelmed like that, you know what I do? This isn't biblical, I take a nap. And I think that's the best, I really think that's one of the best solutions for being overwhelmed. But maybe you get overwhelmed by information. Have you ever done that? Been overwhelmed by the amount of information you got to take in? Maybe it's at work. There's a lot of stuff you have to learn. Or maybe you like Pam. Pam's going to Germany next week, and she's trying to learn German, or relearn German, or refresh herself for German. And all those, you know, words she has to learn, all those phrases she's trying to learn. It can become overwhelming. That was my case this week as we continue our series on heroes in the Bible, as I approach the one we're going to talk about today, Moses. Because Moses probably has more written about him than just about anybody. Moses starts in Exodus chapter 2, goes all the way through Exodus, all the way through Numbers, and 34 chapters into Deuteronomy. That's 1/7 of the Bible written about Moses. So I hope you brought a lunch. We might be here for a while, right? But you can see where that's an overwhelming amount of information to try to put into a 20-minute sermon. Would you agree? But we're going to try. You see, when I have felt overwhelmed in life, one of the things I've learned through my procrastination, which often leads to me being overwhelmed, but through procrastination and those type of things, what I've learned when I get up from my nap and when I'm going to tackle these things is, how do you do it? When life seems to be overwhelming, when there's too much information to take in, how do you do it? How do you accomplish that? Well, as the old joke goes something like, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time, right? And that's what we're going to do today. We're going to approach Moses' life one bite at a time. We're going to break it down to a little bit smaller sections, okay? Are y'all awake out there? Y'all haven't gone into that nap mode yet, have you? Wait just a few minutes before you go into that. Now, I got a question for you. Who knows how old Moses was? So we got to know how long the life is we're talking about.
124.
Close. How many? 120 years, basically. He was 120 years old. Moses was 120 years old. Now, we're going to divide those sections into 3 parts, because in the Bible it's kind of that way. Moses has 3 40-year sections. In the first section, we know some of these stories you've heard time and time again over the years in Bible study, right? Which deals with his Moses. We first meet Moses where? He's being put into a basket, right? Floated down the Nile, and because the Pharaoh's killing male children, right? You know that part of the story. And his mother wants him to live, so they float him down the river. He's discovered by the Pharaoh's daughter, and he's raised in Pharaoh's house, right? And being raised in Pharaoh's house, he had the finest education. He had the finest things in life. You know, any education that was available to him, math and science, and you know, all those things that kids hate in school today, those were available to him, and he was taught. So he was a well-educated man. He probably spoke Egyptian, probably spoke Hebrew as well. Well, we know he had to, because he had to communicate with the Hebrew people, right? So he was well versed in those things, and that's pretty much what you hear about for the first 40 years. About that kind of is a synopsis of what goes on in Moses' life in the first 40 years. And we know he was 40 years old when he went down to see the Hebrew people, because we're told that in Acts 7, 22 and 23, where it tells us that at age 40, it was laid on Moses' heart that he should go down and visit and see his people, the Israelites. So we know that's when he went down, and it was there that what happened? He encountered an Egyptian. What was he doing? He was beating Hebrew slave, right? And what did Moses do? Killed him. And then he
Fled.
He buried him, right? He buried him. He tried to cover it up, right? Tried to hide it, right? So he went away, and he came back the next day, and he saw two Hebrews fighting. He tried to break them up, right? And then they said, what? So who are you to break us up? Weren't you the one you just killed somebody yesterday fighting, right? So he found out he had been discovered, right? Don't you hate that? You think you got away with something, all of a sudden, boom, it's right there in front of you, and somebody saw your sin, and now they know it. You feel like exposed, right? So what does he do? Does he go home? No. He runs, right? Because he knows if they know, it won't be long before Pharaoh knows, and Pharaoh's not going to be happy about that he killed an Egyptian for beating a Hebrew, right? So he takes off and he goes to the land of Midian. And he meets his wife, who's having some problems with some folks at a well. And anybody know her name?
Rachel.
No. Starts with a Z. Zipporah. And who's her father? Jethro. You should always remember that from the Beverly Hillbillies. That's what I remember. Jethro was her father. So he meets his wife, and they have children. He goes to work for his father-in-law, and so he becomes a sheep herder for about the next 40 years. Right? And he figures that's where he's going to die. Right? That he's going to live his life out there until one day something happens. He's out there herding sheep, and what happens? He sees this bush that seems to be burning, but it's not being consumed. You know, the natural process of burning is that something burns up, but it's not just burning. So he approaches it, and God speaks to him from the bush and tells him to take off his sandals, that he's walking on what? Holy ground. Now, I'll be honest. If I approached the bush and it talked to me, you don't have to worry about no sandals. You don't have to, I'm running. I mean, but for some reason, he stays and he hears what God has to tell him. And God has to tell him that he wants him to go and be the deliverer of his people. That he wants to go to Pharaoh and tell Pharaoh what? Let my people go, right? Let my people go. And Moses is so excited about that, isn't he? He just wants to do that? No. He's not excited about that. And that's not on his list of things to do. And he, as a matter of fact, he starts coming up like most of us do. God calls us to do something with excuses why we can't do them, right? Have you ever been there? Am I the only one who's ever done that? Am I speaking out there? Okay. There's a couple of us, at least, are honest. But when God calls us, it's a good place for honest people to be in church. He calls us to do things. A lot of times we make up some excuses. We're some excuses-making people. I'm too busy. I don't have the time, right? And Moses comes up with his set of excuses, and God says, God's not having it, right? God's not having it. He answers all the questions, and he's pretty persistent, which is what we know God is. When he wants you to do something, he can be pretty persistent. He keeps putting it in front of you. And he tells Moses, no, you're the one. You're going to go do it. So that's where we pick up the story. This is in his last 40 years, basically, more or less. That he's going back to Egypt to talk to Pharaoh about freeing his people. Now that's quite a task, isn't it? That's quite a task he's put in front of him. That's no small thing. To go and talk to arguably one of the most powerful people in the world in that day, the Pharaoh of Egypt, and tell him, God wants you to let your whole workforce go. I know you got all these building projects going on, but God wants you to just shut that down. He wants you to let those people go. Now, how many people think that Pharaoh's going to be receptive to that? Exactly. I don't believe it either. I just raised my hand to see if anybody would follow. Pharaoh's not going to be receptive to that. He's not going to be happy about that. He's not going to embrace it. We know that. As a matter of fact, God told Moses, I'm going to make Pharaoh's heart, so he's not going to let my people go. Now, that's not what you want to hear when you're going to see Pharaoh, is it? Not only am I sending you, but I'm going to make it difficult. Right? If God asks you to do something, he says, not only do I want you to do this, I'm going to make it hard. How many people are signing up? Not too many. Not too many people are going to sign up for that. So, but he didn't tell him how hard he was going to make it, did he? He just said he was going to harden his heart. Now, the first thing when he goes back that he has to do is what? He has to go back and convince, now remember, it's been 40 years. He has to go back and convince the Hebrew people who don't know who he is, that God, their God, sent him to free them from their bondage. Now, that's a salesman right there. Right? You're going to have to go in and, you're an outsider going into a people who don't know any other way of life than being in bondage. And say, come on, I'm going to lead you out into the desert where there's no food, there's no water. Come on. You in? You know, but I'm kind of comfortable here. I mean, I have to work really hard and the pay's terrible, but I'm kind of comfortable here. So he has to go in and convince them, which he does, that he's the one to lead them. And then he goes before Pharaoh. How many times? Once? Twice? 3? 4? 5? 6? How many of you have quit already? Right? 7? That's a work week right there. 8? 9? 10 times. After each plague that God puts on the Egyptian people, he has to go back. Now you think Pharaoh might not have been happy the first time he came and told him he wanted to release the workforce. How happy do you think he was every time he came back after that, after a plague? Do you think he was like, oh, Moses, I'm glad you're here? No, of course not. It had to be a difficult task, right? So why do you think Moses would continue to stay on the job? Why wouldn't he say, you know, I had a life back in Midian, I had a wife, kids, and we were happy and we were content and everything was going good. Why do you think?
Faith.
What? Faith. Faith. He didn't think God had sent him. He knew God had sent him. And he knew God would get him through it. So by faith, he was able to go back each and every day. I'd have taken a nap. He went back. He went back each time and confronted Pharaoh. Until finally, what happened? What was the last plague? Remember that?
Death of the firstborn.
Death of a firstborn. And how did the Israelites escape that? Blood on the doorway. Very good. Very good. Blood on the doorway. And they call that what? Passover. That's right. And that's the meal that Jesus became a Jewish. It was a holiday. Remember when the Hebrew people had been set free, right? And they celebrated Jesus' time, and that was considered the traditional meal in which Jesus made what? Had what with his disciples? Last Supper. There we go. So there's your connection there. So after the firstborn is killed, including Pharaoh's son, what happens?
Pharaoh says,
He says, leave. He said, don't. He said, you don't have to ask. Get out. Go. I don't want you here anymore. He's had enough. He tells him to go. He says, you need to go. And so they gather their stuff, and some of the Egyptian stuff, and their livestock, and everything. They head out into the wilderness, right? Does he know where he's going? Is there a GPS? Is there a map? You know, nobody's drawing him a map. He's just going, right? And but he's trusting God to what? Lead. That's called faith. That's called faith. When you don't know where you're going, you're stepping out to the unknown, the unseen. That's called faith. And that's what he does. One step at a time. One day at a time. And he leads the people out there, and everything's great, right? They sit around at watering holes under palm trees and catch tans, right? That's how it works out, right? No, the journey's just beginning. It's not going to get easier. It gets harder. Because what happens? Pharaoh changes his mind. And he sends his chariots after him. And his army after him. To go and to kill him. Bring him back. Whatever you got to do. Bring him back. And so, as Moses is lounging by the Red Sea, right, in his recliner, drinking a drink with an umbrella and stuff like that, No. Moses finds himself, he's at the Red Sea. They have this body of water to cross. Sea, chariots, and army. How many of you are scared? If you're in the Hebrew camp, would anybody be scared? Would anybody be doubting a little bit? Maybe this was the wrong choice. Maybe this wasn't the guy. You know, maybe this Moses isn't who he says he is. I think we made a mistake. Right? And that's what happened. The Hebrew people started out. And Moses tells them something kind of like Braveheart, right? Will Wallace and Braveheart. He tells them this. This is out of Exodus 14, chapters 13 and 14. It says, Moses answered the people saying, "Do not be afraid, stand firm, and you will see the deliverance of the Lord will bring you today. The Egyptian, those folks, the Egyptians you see today, you will never see again. The Lord will fight for you. You need only be still." That's a bold statement of faith right there. In other words, to sit there and say, the Egyptians you see today, those guys coming in, God's going to wipe them out. You're never going to see them again. And I'm sure they're looking around like, with what? You know? How's this going to happen? And what does he do? He takes the staff and he raises it over the Red Sea. And what happens? Fish jump out? No, the waters part. The waters part, and it says that the Hebrew people were able to walk across on dry land. Now what happens when the Egyptians chase? When they come across? They drown, right? The water comes back down, he lowers the staff, water comes back down, and they drown. And what he had said came true. The Egyptians that you see today, you're never going to see them again. 30 minutes ago, you might have been thinking, well, that's because I'm going to be dead. But now you realize it's because they're dead. That mighty army's been wiped out. How many of us come across mighty armies? How many of us face obstacles that seem so overwhelming that we can't face them? There's no way we can be victorious. We look across there and we see chariots and army coming at us and the sea to our back, and we're like, Lord, how am I going to get through this? How are you going to get me through this? Well, maybe that's the key. What did he tell them? Be still. And what does the psalmist tell us in 46:10? Be still and know that I am God. That's right. Maybe sometimes when we're facing those overwhelming obstacles, we need to take a step back and just be still. And know that our God is there with us. And that our God goes with us every step of the way. You see, walking in faith is about knowing that your God walks with you every step of the way. Every day, day by day, minute by minute, hour by hour, He's with you. Or if you're eating an elephant, bite by bite. Right? As you take on that obstacle, you need to know that God is with you. You need to have the faith, not like, here's an elephant, whoa, what am I going to do? You need to have the faith that says, hey, there's an elephant. Somebody pass this on. Because with God's help, I can do what? All things through Christ who what? Strengthens me. That when it's too overwhelming for me, that when I'm weak, He is strong. That's right. That we need to place our faith in our God. And that's what Moses did. Day by day. Minute by minute. God didn't tell him where he was going. Or how long it was going to take him to get there. Do you think if he had, he would have taken the job? I mean, I don't know. For the next 40 years, I'm going to have you wander in the desert with a bunch of people who are going to be complaining. Sign me up. I mean, that's the job I want, right? No. But that's what the people did. Right? And even after God had delivered them, they weren't happy, right? They complained about food, they complained about water, anytime they could complain, we find them complaining, right? But each and every time, God what? He provides for them. That's right. And He'll provide for you as well. You know, when he goes up on the mount to get the Ten Commandments, what do? They get impatient, don't they? Well, Moses has been gone too long. He's just been gone too long. We need a new God. This God's taking too long. Have you ever felt like God took too long? Sometimes it seems that way, but we need to understand something they didn't understand. God's timing is perfect timing. It's not about your timing. It's not about having things delivered when you want them. You can't say, I want a miracle and I need to hear at 2 o'clock today. Right? Sometimes we pray like that. If we're honest. Prayer should be more about knowing that God will give you what you need. Not necessarily what you want, or what you need. Faith is about knowing that God walks you through your desert as well. Faith is about knowing when you face the chariots and the armies that are coming against you, those obstacles that seem bigger than anything you could possibly imagine, God stands right there with you. And He will fight for you. Faith is about knowing that even if it doesn't turn out the way that I want it to, that I've placed my hope and my prayer in God, a God who loves me, and a God who will deliver me. How many of you have that kind of faith? How many of you would like to have that kind of faith? All right? How do you do that? How do you do that? How do you get that kind of faith?
Well, I guess you gotta exercise your faith.
Got to take it out for a walk every once in a while, right? You do have to kind of exercise your faith. That's a good answer. You do need to exercise your faith. And exercising your faith means placing your faith in God. In other words, I'm going to trust you with this, God. I didn't trust you with this yesterday, but today I'm going to trust you with it. You know, I'm going to just let you have it. I know I've been holding on to it because I know you're busy, and if you were too busy, I want to make sure I had it, you know, to catch it. But no. Give it to Him. Really give it to Him. Really give it to Him. And say, this is yours, God. Faith by faith. I mean, day by day, step by step, bite by bite. Each battle is a battle in its own. And each battle develops that relationship with God to a new extent. When you find that you can trust God, you're building blocks to where you develop that great faith that can take you out to the middle of the desert with no GPS and no app on your phone that tells you how far you're going to go or when you're going to get there. Faith just says, I know I'll arrive. That's the kind of faith we should strive to have. That's the kind of faith we should strive to live in day by day. And if you're not living there, that's not the kind of faith you have, then maybe you should take your faith out for a walk, as Billy just said. Maybe you should exercise your faith a little bit so you can develop that faith, so you can draw closer to God. See, because the whole thing about faith is it draws you into a closer relationship with God. And isn't that our ultimate goal? To feel His presence each and every day, each and every minute of that day. And you don't do that by accident. You do that by striving to get there, by taking it out for a walk. Moses did it one step at a time. We all must. We all have to remember that God's with us each and every step of the way, each and every step of every day. And all God's people said,
Amen.